the to Malaysia thing. So my question to you for today, the first question would be, the Hotels Association of Malaysia has mentioned that the hotel occupancy rates will not go up to 30% until the end of the year. Now, this is expected to be pulled till the first quarter of 2021. Do you think that hotels are able to survive with this 30% rate?
No. The short answer is I don't think hotels can survive with a 30% occupancy rate. It's too low. The best of hotels who have got their prices very optimized would be able to make some profit with 50% occupancy, but 30% is just very difficult. So I think it's difficult times ahead for the hotel industry, for the Airbnb industry, especially for those that don't have strong cash positions.
I see. Okay. So with that, Cuti Malaysia, do you think it'll be able to help hotels to make profit for the next 6 months?
Okay. I have my reservations about that. The reason is this. When you say Cuti Malaysia, we're referring to the domestic tourism market.
Correct.
And for a long time, Malaysia is the 13th most visited country in the world. Kuala Lumpur is the 7th most visited city in the world. So we've relied on international tourism a lot. Before the pandemic, I think we had somewhere in the region of 27 million international tourist arrivals. That's the population of Malaysia. Now, overnight, right, that entire tourist arrivals has gone down to zero. So it's a huge impact on the tourism industry. Cuti Malaysia, the domestic market is good. It's healthy, it's vibrant, it was growing. So in 2018, we saw an 11% growth. So it's been growing in double digits. We had 78.2 million domestic tourist arrivals to different stations in Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia. It's a good number, but it's not enough, because if you look at the pandemic now, you're going to see there'll be a decline even in domestic tourist arrivals. So we saw some good things happening, like for example, when the RMCO was announced, within an hour of the PM announcing that, hotels in Langkawi had they had a record 1,000 plus bookings, and that's great. And then you can see some trends outside of Malaysia. For example, when China ended the lockdown, Airbnb saw a 200% increase in bookings. So we know that once this lockdown is removed, once things are eased and the borders open up, I really see tourism market getting back on its feet. But as long as our borders are closed, I don't think the market is going to be, it's going to be tough times. So I don't think Cuti Malaysia alone is enough to sustain our tourism market, especially accommodations, because we've grown so much in the last five years. The number of budget hotels to hotels and Airbnbs that have come up have grown. It's been exponential to cater for this growth in tourist arrivals, which are now almost dead.
Right. Okay, so with that, right, our PM announced some incentive packages for hotel industries. Are you able to give us some insight on the packages?
So the packages were pretty straightforward. It was a lot of tax breaks. There wasn't any real money being pumped into this industry. Whatever incentives took place was in the form of tax breaks. So the first one was players in the tourism market can defer their tax installments. So you have to make 6 monthly tax payments. They can defer that. Then the second one was a exemption from the tourism tax. So hotels were not paying this anyway. It was the guests who were paying it. So now guests don't have to pay this tourism tax. Then there is a tax rebate of about 1,000 ringgit for people who are spending money for tourism-related activities. The last one, sorry, my memory is not so good, so I'm just going to refer back to this, was service tax. So the 6% service tax, there's an exemption on that as well. So these things are good drivers for domestic consumption, but I don't think it's enough. We need demand. We need to inject money to create demand. Our borders need to open.
Correct.
We need international tourist arrivals. So as long as that's not happening, again, as I said earlier, it's tough times for the hotel market.
Hotels, yes. And I think in the first interview that we had, you've mentioned it before, but I think for our new viewers, I think we'd like to hear it from you again. So from MCO to CMCO to current RMCO, since the game has changed, how can these hotels stay afloat? Because we've heard of hotels closing down. So how can these hotels stay afloat?
If you look at what most of the top economists in the world have been saying, generally even strategists, business gurus, leaders, they always say this: the best solution or the best defense for these kind of situations is innovation. And it's something that has been lacking in the hospitality industry, or there hasn't been much trust in this area. I think the hotel industry and Airbnb hosts, Airbnb itself, all these platforms really need to look at how they can reinvent themselves and how they can innovate their services. During the CMCO, there was one creative solution, which was hotels became quarantine centers. So it helped ease some, the cash flow for some hotels. CMCO, now that hotels are able to operate again, perhaps they should start looking at themselves as expanding their market. So instead of daily rates, for example, or why not hourly rates? We are doing a Zoom meeting right now. Thousands of people are doing Zoom meetings, but they don't have proper locations to do it. I'm doing this from my house right now. So if you hear screeching sound, it's not sound effects, it's my daughter in the background screaming. And sometimes we need a proper place, right, to live Zooms. So hotels actually have fantastic interiors. The rooms look really good. So why not think about hourly rates, serving this market, co-working spaces? I think hotels can adapt to these and provide services like this. So innovation is the name of the game. They really need to look at ways to innovate services.
Okay. So I guess that, hotels need to actually continue to move forward than the conventional, just renting a room for you to rest, but to do more than just be a hotel to earn more money.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. I think that's really good. I think hotels should really take note on that. So being an ambassador for Airbnb yourself, do you think that the Airbnb units will have a higher occupancy rate than hotels?
It really depends. If you look at the market in general, I don't think Airbnb is going to have a higher occupancy. But if you look at specific pockets, for example, places like Kuala Lumpur, you compare Airbnbs in good locations in Kuala Lumpur with budget hotels, I think Airbnb occupancy rates might be better. But it's not an apple-to-apple comparison. There's so many differences. If an Airbnb is more conducive for long-term stays. So right now, Airbnb is starting to push long-term stays. If you look at the website, if you look at hosts, they've all started giving lots of discounts. Airbnb is advising hosts to get ready for long-term bookings. Budget hotels are not suitable for that. Apartments, you've got swimming pool, you've got gyms, you've got all these facilities, cooking facilities that budget hotels don't have. So in some segments, you might see Airbnb actually doing better. But overall, if you look at the total market, I don't think there'll be higher occupancy. 4-star, 5-star hotels have got a very strong corporate market. So, and then they've got huge marketing budgets. So they might actually have better occupancies, but perhaps budget hotels a bit less. So it really depends what you're comparing the Airbnbs to. But in general, I don't think the occupancy is going to be better.
All right. So in your opinion, because I think we need to help our Malaysians, gain some profit. Do you think it's a wise choice for Malaysians to do intertrade traveling, traveling to visit their family members or for holidays? What do you think?
I think Malaysians should go out and start spending. If we are to resuscitate the economy, please go, please travel, spend money. It's not a very good time to be saving now because the economy needs consumption, it needs transactions to take place. Do it with caution. If you're sick, don't travel. Period. But and then if you're elderly, you're someone who's at high risk, you shouldn't be traveling. But if you can travel, you're feeling good, go and spend money. Do the Cuti Malaysia, support Malaysian businesses, help resuscitate our economy. We need that.
Right. Do you think that the fear of recession coming will also affect people from spending money? Like we say, yes, I want to go Cuti Malaysia, but also at the same time, I want to keep my money first because in case of a recession, at least I have some money to save myself. Do you think this will be one of the reasons why Malaysians don't really want to go out to spend during this moment?
Yes, I think Malaysians in general, cautious. We're looking at, close to 600,000 people being unemployed by end of the year. And that's only unemployment. We haven't counted the wage cuts. Almost 60% of people I talk to have accepted wage cuts. So that, ranges from 15% as high as 50%. People are going to be careful. They're going to be thinking twice about what they're spending money on. But there's also a lot of pent-up demand. Like if you notice what happened as soon as RMCO was announced, 1,000 bookings in Langkawi. Together with, some of these incentives like the tax rebate, the 1,000 ringgit tax rebate, it will help to offset some of this. But definitely we're going to see we're not going to see growth in domestic travel like the previous years.
Okay. So for hotels and premises, other than SOP and cleaning the premises, what are the other measures that hotel can make to ensure a safe and clean environment for their guests?
Okay, so besides the sanitization and all that, I think they should have processes, and basically it should be the entry points. So anywhere that people are entering the hotel, as long as you're scanning them, you're screening these people, it lowers the chance of spreading the coronavirus. Besides that, in all the facility points, like the restaurants, the swimming pools, the beaches, before anyone is allowed into them, they need to have proper screening. This is going to take up a lot of manpower, equipment. It might cause bottlenecks, especially if hotels have more than 40-50% occupancy. But that's the new norm.
Right. So let's say if a guest were to be infected at a hotel or an Airbnb, is there any claims that they can make?
I know that there is you can claim tax exemptions for the medical bills, but you can't make a claim against the hotel per se. I mean, short of the hotel being negligent, which is a civil case, there's no recourse there. So you can't claim against the hotel or the business premise, but you have some tax incentives for your medical bills.
Okay. So you mentioned that it's going to take lots of manpower to say if the cost of the cleaning is higher than the profit that the hotel will be making. How will the hotels be able to cover their costs while ensuring the safety of their guests?
The cleaning cost, I don't think is going to be that much more. Hotels are already equipped to clean rooms. They're just adding on the sanitizers to do the wiping down. It will probably take a little bit more time to clean the rooms, but because occupancies are so low, hotels can afford to increase the time taken to clean. But the screening process, that might require some more manpower. But again, hotels are now having very low occupancy, so manpower can be shifted around. Instead of having 8 cleaners cleaning, you can have 4 cleaners cleaning and another 4 helping out with the screening. So your manpower, they can shuffle the manpower around and handle this. If the many of these costs will add up, and if it starts to eat on your profitability, I suppose the first and the most easiest way to handle this is to increase your rates. So hotels actually need to look at how they can optimize their day rates and costs. This is going to be very important.
Do you think, if other than that, because you mentioned like our hourly rate as well, how can the hotels arrange their hourly rates and make sure they also make a profit and tally it up with the daily rates? Because some hotels they do hourly rate, but they don't tally with daily rates. Do you think hourly rate should be way higher a little bit than the daily rates, or the other way around?
It definitely shouldn't be a linear sort of calculation. So you can't, let's say a hotel's daily rate is 300 ringgit per night. You can't divide that by 24 hours and come up with your hourly rate. It's definitely going to be a lot higher. So instead of 300, if you've got 300 a night, maybe your hourly rate could be 50 ringgit, or it could be 50 ringgit for 2 hours. It really depends. Hotels need to look at what potential guests can pay. And I think, 50 ringgit for a room, a nice room, to run a good Facebook Live, especially if I'm going to be generating some income from that Facebook Live, is not very expensive.
Okay, great. So we now want to talk about the hotels that were closed down. I think recently in the news, I think yesterday, that I read that, a beautiful hotel in Penang, one of my favorites as well, Holiday Inn, will be closing down after decades of being in Penang. And lots of numerous other hotels as well, Jazz hotels in Penang as well, they are closing down. What are your thoughts on these hotels that closed down during the MCO and CMCO?
So that's really unfortunate, isn't it? The Holiday Inn. I like the hotel as well. This is something we're going to see more of. And what's happened is that we were headed for this. In the last 3 or 4 years, I was in the Airbnb business, in a big way. And we noticed that occupancies were dropping, prices were going down. To be honest, hotel prices in Malaysia are some of the cheapest in the region. If you travel around the region, Ho Chi Minh City or Jakarta, hotel rates are much more expensive. So our hotel rates are very, very cheap. And it's a result of lots of competition. Many hotels have been mushrooming, coming up. Airbnb came into the picture, and the way that everyone responded to this increase in competition was not to increase my value, my services, the value of my services, but to reduce price. And that was basically shooting themselves in the foot, because profitability started to reduce. It decreased a lot. So it was, the earnings and the revenues were all dropping. Occupancy rates were falling down. Malaysia, the government also has not been doing enough to promote tourism. I mean, we're the 13th most visited country in the world, when we can actually easily be in the top 10. Easily. We've got the best beaches in the world. We've got the oldest rainforests in the world. We've got the best diving spots in the world. We've amazing places, amazing things to do in Malaysia. I love traveling inside Malaysia. So there's so much potential, but it wasn't really promoted out. When you talk to foreigners, people outside Malaysia, they always talk about Bali, they talk about
All right.
Thailand. You know, very
Right.
few. I mean, though we have lots of tourists coming here, people don't really think of Southeast Asia as, you know, Malaysia is the place. Malaysia is like,
Right.
I'm going to Thailand, then by chance I'm going to Malaysia as well.
Yeah.
We should be doing a lot more to promote Malaysia. I mean, our beaches are better than Phuket,
Mm.
for sure.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
Right.
the government needed to do more, but it wasn't doing that. Then, you know, there's this competition, prices were going low. So COVID came and just expedited what was already happening. We were on this trajectory. COVID just made it happen faster. We
Mm.
and we are going to see more of this happening, unfortunately, because
Yeah.
those hotels that don't have a strong cash position, you're going to find it very difficult to sustain over the
Mm.
course of next year.
Yeah, I think if I were to say very honestly, most people know our neighboring countries more than they know about Malaysia lah. Even if they know Malaysia is just it's a neighboring country besides Singapore and Thailand lah, a small one, right? It's just a small country beside Singapore and Thailand. But I
Yeah.
do hope that our ministry can do more so that more people coming to Malaysia to help us. And once they open up, because they say right now it's RMC until the 31st of August. So I hope they can open it up to more tourists to come and help us as well. Not just Malaysians helping Malaysians, but also to allow foreigners to help Malaysians to grow again. We really need money to grow again.
Yeah. And
Right.
we really
Yep.
need to become a country that is very, very tourist friendly. We need to have services that are tourist friendly. You know, the attraction in Thailand, for example, is the fact that you've got you know, beautiful bars, you've got, you know, lots of entertainment, recreation, and all that together with the beach. In Malaysia, we, you know, there are other issues that get in the place of allowing recreation and entertainment and all to happen together with tourism. These things need to be looked into, because honestly, tourism revenue was going to prior to COVID-19, tourism revenue was going to overtake oil and gas revenues. And with our oil and gas prices as it is now, we should really, really be looking into tourism and promoting the hell out of tourism.
Okay. So other than hotels that close down, we want to talk about those who say they are temporarily closed. There are also hotels that are temporarily closed. Do you think that they will have a potential comeback?
Okay, so those that are temporarily closed, I know Genting is temporarily closed.
Right.
Genting definitely can potentially come back. They've got the cash, the financial strength to do that. But those that are not in a strong cash position or financial position, I don't see them being able to make a comeback, because there's just no occupancy at the moment. If the hotel association says their occupancies are going to be 30% till end of the year, many of these hotels cannot sustain.
Right. Okay. So some of the hotels, I think, even during MCO, they actually let go some of their staffs. So we want to know, will those hotelers who lost their job, do you think that hotels will want to start hiring them again?
Not in the near future. As long as occupancies are low, there's no, the hotel services are very occupancy based. That means if my occupancy is low, I don't need the amount of resources that I needed before. So there's no scope for hiring until occupancy starts to pick up. You know, on the bright side though, I see this as, you know, of course, some businesses are going to be hurt. It's very unfortunate to see some hotels close, but there's kind of an overall reset, not just with hotels, but in the whole industry, there's a reset, meaning that supply and demand is going to find an equilibrium. Previously, we had this situation where there's just so much supply, prices were starting to come down, but post COVID-19, I feel that you're going to have less supply and more tourist arrivals, which means prices can go up. So hotels
Right.
can actually start looking at being profitable in the coming years. So, there is a silver lining in all this.
Right. So it's good to know that, there's a silver lining, and I hope hoteliers out there just stay strong, hang in there. We wish you guys all the best, and, you get through this. So we received a few questions from our viewers. I'm going to go one by one with you. The first one is from Noor Ashikin Harun. She asks, what are some of the initiatives to restore the trust of domestic and foreign tourists once the RMCO is lifted? And how long will it take for tourism industry to get back on track?
That's a very, very good question. I think a strong message, and I recently did an interview with a really good economist, and this was his message as well, that a strong message needs to come out from the leadership, the top leadership, of a message of hope, of courage, of strength. And people, we need to know, for example, right now with RMCO and all that, we don't know, can we bring our children out to eat with us in restaurants?
Right.
Can we bring kids out for Cuti Malaysia, or only adults? So there's a lot of things we are not aware of, and I think the government machinery needs to work on this, on communicating with people and letting them know, like, hey, to me, with the RMCO basically is a sign that the government is confident we have contained the virus. And as long as we're taking precaution, that's the only way to handle it. Because for the next vaccine is only going to come 2 years down the road, maybe a little earlier, but it's a long time down the road. So we need to adapt to a new normal, and we need to encourage people and give them the enough information to know that, hey, you can go and travel, you can do this. These are the precautions that you need to take. You need to do social distancing. Hotels need to provide some comfort and confidence, like this is what we are doing. So as long as there's very good communication from the top down, I think people become confident to start traveling, and that is an area we need to focus
on. Very insightful. And I feel that, with great leadership, I think everything will be managed greatly, so that, people will be able to feel more assured, and that the future is not that bad as we see. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, we have a question from Miss Andeline Chang. She says, what will happen to the hotels that was closed down? Are they being sold to another management, or will the building be torn down?
I really won't be able to answer that, but I can tell you that it will be hard for them to find buyers. At this point in time, people will be a bit more cautious about investing in hotels, maybe many months down the road. So in that period, I'm not sure what's going to happen, whether it will be torn down or not. Perhaps developers may look at it and it can be reconverted into residential developments. I'm not sure, but that's one possibility. But I don't think there's going to be many buyers out there looking to grab hotels at the moment.
Correct. And also, maybe you want to tell us a little bit more, like, what do you think the government can do to push our tourism just a little bit more? Maybe from a hotelier's kind of point of view, or a Airbnb ambassador point of view?
The most important thing that needs to happen is our borders need to open. So there must be some global concerted effort to allow international tourism again. And I think we can screen people at the airports. It's just some investment in equipment to do this. And so that's the most important thing. We need to allow international tourists to come in. And if we can do that, and we can bring people back into Malaysia, it'll be great. The other thing is, which I mentioned earlier, is that we should do more to promote Malaysia per se. There's not enough being done. We have got beautiful beaches, we've got beautiful mountains, dive spots, oldest
Totally
villages,
agree.
yeah, caves. There's so much to do in Malaysia, but not enough being done. So simple campaigns. The government doesn't have to spend millions of dollars. Invite the top travel YouTubers, right, for free. Pay for them. Say, come to Malaysia, do a video. We will pay for your trip here. Come stay. These are the places we're going to send you to go to, and do your videos. Some of these travel YouTube travel vloggers, they've got millions of views. You bring 100, 200 of them, come and show them Malaysia. Right. We need to get this message out that Malaysia is a fantastic place to come and stay, and then we just need to become very tourism friendly, like Thailand is.
Correct. I think I couldn't agree more. I think for Malaysians, we are more multilingual. We can speak English, we can speak Mandarin, we can speak Malay, we can really speak dialects. And I think to communicate with foreigners is not too hard. Yes. And I think Malaysia is also a very friendly place for tourists to come and visit. Our crime rates is not that high as well. It's actually quite a peaceful country. And I totally agree with you when you say that, our government should actually invite YouTubers who go on travel vlogs to come to Malaysia to do the videos, because we are now really moving towards the digital era. I think everyone is on the digital era. Like us right now, we're on Zoom as well. So I think for everyone who's moving forward to the digital era, I think a YouTube video of doing all these tourist visits in Malaysia will be a really good initiative to bring people to our country. I totally agree with you. Very good insight on this. Super great. Also, we want to know, for Airbnb owners with Cuti Malaysia, earlier on you said that, the occupancy level cannot be compared as to hotels. But do you think the occupancy rate might increase for not long-term but short-term rental for the next few months until we open up our borders again?
We are seeing I do some consulting work for operators, and we're starting to see an increase in bookings. But again, it's very small. I also think it's going to be in the region of 30%, 40% for Airbnb operators. And this is for Airbnb operators or Airbnb hosts who are really good at what they do. Those that are average hosts, it might be much lower than that.
Okay. So we also we haven't opened our borders yet, but do you think once we open up our borders, there will be people coming in to, come to Malaysia and have a holiday in Malaysia this soon, right after this RMCO?
I think we would see people coming in. Again, you can see the pent-up demand. And there's many examples, when China ended the lockdown, I think it is Hermes or Louis Vuitton saw the highest sales in one retail store ever, broke a record. Then we saw Airbnb bookings go up by 200%. We saw that when the RMCO was announced, Langkawi, 1,000 bookings. So there is people, and we had a chat earlier, and you were telling me, I can't wait to go diving again, right?
Right.
I think people want to travel, they want to go out, but if governments send a clear message that, hey, you can travel, these are the precautions that you need to take. This, and then airports have proper screenings, and we just encourage people to come to Malaysia and visit the country. Yeah, I think we might be able to, maybe not go back to the same levels as before immediately, but it would be better, much better.
Wonderful. And I think with your sharing today, I think everyone has a more insight on how hotels are doing, how tourism is doing, and how we're gonna cope after our MCO. And of course, I think that the rates of the pandemic is in our country is, I think it's going down. It's not increasing that much anymore, and most likely we are all seeing it as it's coming under control compared to other countries. So I guess our government is really doing something that is really good because it's really working. And I do hope that what you said, like have more tourists coming to Malaysia, open the borders quick, because we want them to come here and, you know, help our country prosper with our economy. I think, yes, that is what we should do as well. And of course, Malaysians should also be more friendly when we have tourists in our country and help them if they need help. Yes,
I'm going just maybe to correct myself if I came off as saying Malaysians are not friendly enough. I think Malaysians are friendly.
No.
Government policies to be more tourist friendly. We need in terms of how to entertain tourists that come here. How do we you know, a lot of beaches. There's lots of beautiful beaches in Kelantan, and
right.
But there's limitations to what recreation and all is allowed there. So these are areas that government policy needs. The government needs to think, like, how do we make this conducive, attractive to foreign tourists?
Yeah, correct. When I said not that friendly, is because sometimes Malaysians, you know, we tend to think, okay, what if this is a scam? We go with lots of internet, the posting going on about people backpacking, coming to our country, begging for money, they're not good, you don't help them and all that. But I feel like, you know, there's this thing where hitchhikers, Malaysians, we don't pick up hitchhikers. Why? Because we scared that they will take a knife at our neck and like, hey, and all that, you know. But I feel like, you know, not till that extreme. I think Malaysia should start to slowly practice hitchhiking as well. Because when you go to European countries and you do that, you do hitchhiking as well. So I think that's a trend that we can start to practice, as well as couch surfing as well. Couch surfing is also a great trend to save money. And even like some Airbnbs overseas, they also practice couch surfing. Like you can go to this host house and okay, you can crash on my couch. I think these two trends can slowly start in Malaysia, because Malaysia is also quite a very beautiful country, like you've mentioned. And, you know, with this way, we can move forward and, you know, be more tourist friendly, like you mentioned. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Ikhram, is there anything else you would like to tell our viewers here today before we end the show?
Yes. I mean, I maybe just add on. So I think that we really need to open our borders. We need to relook. We need to restart the economy as a whole. Strangely, I wanted to say this fact earlier. If you look at what's happened with the coronavirus pandemic, with COVID-19, more people have been affected by the lockdowns than the virus itself. You know, 600,000 people unemployed by the end of the year. That's far, far more than the total number of people that were infected with COVID-19. So we need to look at these things in perspective. Of course, we have to be cautious, but the government really needs to look at how we can restart the economy. And in closing, it's going to be a very tough time for hotels, definitely. Low occupancies. You know, if we're projecting occupancies of 30% till end of the year, it's going to be very hard for hotels to be profitable. And those that are not in strong financial positions are going to be affected. You might see, I think we're going to see more closures. But then I have a message of hope. There is a silver lining to all this, because after this, I think we're going to have a more vibrant hotel industry, in the sense that those hotels that remain are going to be able to become more profitable. They're going to be able to operate with better revenues.
Right. I also hope that they can grow better. And of course, before we end, so sorry, Mr. Ikhram, there's one question that we have from Najwa, last one. Okay, so she said, I think airlines, hotels, and travel agencies should work together to offer more travel packages to encourage people to travel within Malaysia. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree with you 100%. If everyone can work together, in fact, as many people that can, or if all the stakeholders can come together, you got government, airlines, the hotel industry, travel agents, tour agents, and all getting together to create, very attractive packages. Yes.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it from the man himself, an Airbnb ambassador, propreneur and co-founder of The Tribe, author, and a blogger at livingspace.com.my. So if you guys wish to read his thoughts, remember to go to livingspace.com.my. Thank you so much, Mr. Ikhram, for today's session. It's been so insightful, and I'm sure everyone has learned something today from your sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gwen. Thanks for having me, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned with us this Saturday as we speak to Mr. Charles Tan from copyandproperty.my. So, we'll see you this Saturday as well. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Ikhram. Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.